Open the door right now. You hear me? Unlock it and open it, or I'm coming through it.
Open this door now! Unlock it! Do it before I tear it off the hinges! Last warning, I'm not asking again. You keep it closed, I break it down and drag you out in cuffs. Right now, open the door!
The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the residential streets of suburban Atlanta on September 14th, 2023. It was the kind of peaceful Saturday that families live for, the air thick with the smell of barbecue smoke drifting from backyard grills, the distant sound of lawnmowers creating that quintessential suburban symphony. In one modest but well-kept home on Riverside Drive, the Henderson family was preparing for what should have been a routine evening. Marcus Henderson, a 15-year veteran of the United States Marshals Service, had just returned from a week-long fugitive apprehension operation. His wife, Shanice, a registered nurse at Grady Memorial Hospital, was organizing their 2 children's school supplies. Their son, 12-year-old Jaden, sat at the kitchen table working on a science project, while 8-year-old Amara practiced piano in the living room. Marcus had changed out of his tactical gear hours ago, trading his standard-issue vest and weapon for a simple gray t-shirt and jeans. His service vehicle sat in the driveway, an unmarked black Ford Explorer with government plates. Inside the center console, his badge and credentials waited in their leather case. Shanice called out from the kitchen, asking Marcus to run to the corner store for milk and bread. Simple. Ordinary. The kind of errand that happens in millions of American households every day. What the Henderson family didn't know was that in the next few minutes, their peaceful Saturday would transform into a nightmare that would expose a criminal conspiracy, end multiple careers, and reveal one of the most audacious impersonation schemes in Georgia law enforcement history. Marcus pulled out of his driveway at 4:47 p.m. The neighborhood was quiet, almost eerily so for a Saturday afternoon. As he approached the intersection of Riverside and Jefferson, Marcus noticed a vehicle behind him, a white Dodge Charger with emergency lights mounted on the dashboard. Not the standard light bar of a marked patrol vehicle, but the kind of discreet setup used by detectives. The Charger's lights suddenly activated, red and blue strobes flashing in his rearview mirror. Marcus checked his speedometer, 28 miles per hour in a 30 zone. He hadn't run any stop signs. His registration was current. There was no legitimate reason for this stop. But Marcus Henderson was a black man in America, and he knew the protocol. He activated his phone's video recording, propping it on the dashboard. He placed both hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2. 2 men exited the Charger. The first was a heavy-set white male wearing dark tactical pants, a black polo shirt with a badge emblem, and a gun belt. The second was thinner, younger, dressed almost identically. Neither wore standard uniforms, Marcus recognized. The heavy-set officer, who would later be identified as James Whitmore, age 43, approached with his hand on his holstered weapon. His partner, 29-year-old Kyle Brennan, positioned himself near the passenger side. "License and registration," Whitmore barked, skipping any standard protocols. No explanation for the stop, no professional courtesy. Marcus kept his hands visible. "May I ask why you pulled me over, officer?" "I'll ask the questions," Whitmore snapped. "License and registration, now." Everything about this encounter felt wrong. The aggressive posture, the lack of marked vehicles, the non-standard uniforms. "My license is in my wallet in my back right pocket," Marcus said calmly. "My registration is in the glove compartment. I'm also informing you that I am armed and have a valid carry permit." Whitmore's eyes narrowed. "Armed? Step out of the vehicle. Now, hands where I can see them." Marcus Henderson had conducted hundreds of traffic stops during his career. He'd apprehended fugitives wanted for murder. He'd testified in federal court. And now he was being treated like a criminal 3 blocks from his home. "Sir, I'm happy to comply, but I need you to explain the reason for this stop," Marcus said firmly. "What traffic violation did I commit?" Brennan moved closer to the passenger window, peering inside with a flashlight despite the afternoon sun. "He's got a laptop bag in the back seat. Looks expensive. And is that a tactical vest?" Whitmore's demeanor shifted from aggressive to predatory. "Step out of the vehicle. We have reasonable suspicion to search for weapons and contraband." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. "I do not consent to any searches. I am invoking my Fourth Amendment rights. Unless you have probable cause of a crime, this detention is unlawful. Whitmore's expression hardened. Oh, we got a lawyer here. One of those sovereign citizen types who thinks they know the law better than law enforcement. Final warning, Whitmore said, his hand gripping his weapon. Step out of the vehicle, or I will remove you by force. We have reason to believe this vehicle matches the description of one involved in a robbery this morning. It was a lie. Marcus knew it was a lie. This wasn't a traffic stop. This wasn't even police harassment. This was something far worse. What James Whitmore and Kyle Brennan didn't know was that they had just made the worst mistake of their criminal careers. Because the suspicious black male they were attempting to intimidate wasn't an easy mark. Marcus Henderson was a deputy United States Marshal with arrest authority that superseded their fake badges, and that realization would turn their entire operation upside down. Marcus made his decision. Before I step out of this vehicle, I'm going to reach into my center console and retrieve my credentials. I'm doing so slowly. Watch my hands. Whitmore's hand tightened on his weapon. I didn't give you permission to. I don't need your permission, Marcus interrupted, his tone commanding. I'm reaching for my badge. 2 fingers, slow movements. Marcus opened the center console and retrieved his leather credential case, the one that bore the gold eagle and star of the United States Marshals Service, established in 1789, with jurisdiction that few local officers truly understood. He flipped open the case, holding it out the window. The badge gleamed in the afternoon sunlight. Deputy United States Marshal. The credentials included his federal law enforcement identification, his photograph, and his commission number. The color drained from Kyle Brennan's face. Jim, is that real? Whitmore's eyes widened. Could be fake. We've seen fake badges before. Marcus stepped out of his vehicle slowly, deliberately. I'm going to verify your credentials now. What agency are you with? What's your badge number? And why did you initiate this traffic stop? The power dynamic had shifted entirely. Brennan stepped backward, his hand moving away from his weapon. DeKalb County Sheriff's Office, Whitmore said quickly. Special Investigations Unit, Plainclothes Division. Alarm bells screamed in Marcus's mind. DeKalb County Sheriff's deputies didn't conduct traffic stops in this jurisdiction. That was DeKalb County Police Department territory, a completely separate agency. Badge numbers, Marcus repeated, and I'll need to see your department-issued identification cards. Whitmore's jaw clenched. We don't have to show you anything. Federal jurisdiction doesn't supersede local law enforcement operations. That statement was legally absurd. Title 18 of the United States Code, Section 353, grants U.S. Marshals authority to execute federal warrants and make arrests anywhere in United States territory. Actually, it does. And right now, I have reasonable suspicion that you two are impersonating law enforcement officers. That's a federal offense under Title 18, Section 912. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to provide credentials, or I'm calling my supervisor and having actual DeKalb County Police respond to verify your identities. Brennan's nerve broke. Jim, we should just... Shut up, Kyle, Whitmore hissed, using his partner's real name and confirming Marcus's suspicions. These weren't cops. These were criminals. Marcus reached for his phone. I'm calling my supervisor now. I'm also requesting marked DeKalb County Police units. If you're legitimate officers, you have nothing to worry about. He dialed Deputy Chief Marshal Robert Carmichael. Chief, it's Henderson. I need you to listen carefully. I was pulled over by 2 individuals claiming to be DeKalb County Sheriff's deputies. They're wearing non-standard uniforms, driving an unmarked Charger with aftermarket lights, and they cannot provide valid credentials. I'm 3 blocks from my residence on Jefferson Avenue. I'm requesting immediate backup. Stay on the line, Carmichael responded immediately. I'm dispatching our team and contacting DeKalb County Police right now. Do not engage unless you're in immediate danger. Whitmore's face flushed red. You're making a big mistake, pal. No, Marcus replied quietly. You made the mistake. You pulled over a federal agent in his own neighborhood. You attempted an unlawful search. And based on your lack of credentials and violation of basic constitutional procedures, I have probable cause to detain both of you pending investigation. In the distance, the first sirens began to wail. but this was only the beginning. What wouldn't be revealed until investigators started pulling threads was that Whitmore and Brennan were part of a sophisticated fake police operation that had been targeting affluent black families across 3 counties for more than 8 months. And the evidence was about to expose a pattern of robbery, intimidation, and racial profiling that would shock Georgia. The cavalry arrived at 5:04 p.m. 4 marked DeKalb County police vehicles, 2 unmarked units from the U.S. Marshals Service, and 1 supervisor's vehicle converged on Jefferson Avenue. Lieutenant Sarah Chen approached Marcus. "Deputy Marshal Henderson, your supervisor briefed me. Are you injured?" "I'm fine, but those 2 are impersonating officers. They couldn't produce valid credentials, and their vehicle isn't registered to any law enforcement agency." What investigators found in the Dodge Charger would become the foundation of a federal criminal case. In the trunk, 6 additional police uniform shirts with fake agency patches, 4 tactical vests with police emblems, 3 handheld radios, 2 spike strips, and a lockbox containing more than $11,000 in cash and various jewelry. In the glove compartment, a laminated script for conducting fake traffic stops, including specific intimidation phrases. Reasonable suspicion to search for weapons. Vehicle matches description from earlier robbery. Step out or face forcible removal. On Brennan's phone, dozens of videos showing previous encounters with other black families. Each followed the same pattern: fake traffic stop, aggressive posturing, threats, and then citizens handing over valuables. Detective Marcus Riley was assigned as lead investigator. A 22-year veteran with organized crime experience, he immediately recognized the operation's sophistication. "This isn't amateur hour," Riley said. "These guys have been running this for months. The equipment represents significant investment. Someone bankrolled this." Brennan cracked within 45 minutes of interrogation. Facing federal charges and decades in prison, he provided investigators with everything. They had been running fake police stops since January 2023, 9 months of criminal activity. They targeted affluent neighborhoods with significant black populations, believing racial profiling combined with fear of law enforcement would make victims less likely to question their authority. They worked 4 days per week, usually weekends when real police patrol was spread thin. They monitored social media to identify areas where expensive vehicles were common and actual police presence was minimal. They had conducted approximately 73 fake traffic stops. 41 resulted in monetary theft or property seizure. The total value of stolen property exceeded $217,000. But perhaps most disturbing was Brennan's explanation. Most people don't know their rights, especially black people when they're dealing with cops. They're so afraid of getting shot or arrested that they just comply. Nobody ever checks badges. They just hand over whatever we ask for. The FBI's Cybercrimes Division recovered data painting a comprehensive picture of their criminal enterprise. GPS location data matched them to multiple reported thefts. Text messages between Whitmore and Brennan discussed scores, marks, and intimidation strategies. Most chillingly, investigators found communications with a third individual, Leonard Stokes, age 51, who owned a security equipment supply company. Stokes had provided the fake badges, uniforms, emergency lights, and tactical gear. In exchange, he received 30% of their proceeds. Leonard Stokes was arrested on September 18, 2023, 4 days after Marcus Henderson's encounter. The investigation revealed Whitmore and Brennan had been in Marcus's neighborhood before. GPS data showed they'd driven past his house 3 times in the previous 2 weeks, casing the area. If Marcus had been driving his wife's car, if his children had been with him, if the encounter had occurred at night. But you might be wondering, what happened to these criminals? What consequences did they face for terrorizing innocent families? The answer would send a message that would reverberate through every police impersonation operation in the country. On January 23, 2024, 4 months after that September afternoon, James Whitmore, Kyle Brennan, and Leonard Stokes stood before Judge Patricia Martinez in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Georgia. The courtroom was packed with media, community activists, and 17 identified victims. The charges were extensive. James Whitmore faced 41 counts of impersonating a federal officer, 41 counts of armed robbery, 41 counts of conspiracy, 3 counts of weapons violations, and 1 count of hate crime enhancement based on racially motivated victim selection. Combined maximum sentence, more than 300 years in federal prison. Kyle Brennan faced identical charges on 38 counts. Leonard Stokes faced 41 counts of conspiracy and 41 counts of aiding impersonation. All 3 had accepted plea agreements. Their attorneys had seen the evidence, the videos, GPS data, victim testimonies, and Marcus Henderson's perfectly documented encounter. Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Wallace delivered the sentencing recommendation. Your Honor, these defendants weaponized the very symbols of law enforcement to prey upon citizens conditioned to comply with police out of fear for their safety. They specifically targeted black families because they believed those victims would be too afraid to question their authority. Wallace paused. They were wrong, because one victim was Deputy United States Marshal Marcus Henderson, who recognized their scheme and had the courage to challenge their false authority, despite knowing such challenges have resulted in black men being injured or killed. Judge Martinez listened to victim testimony. Angela Morrison, a 43-year-old accountant, described how they pulled her over in May 2023, claimed her BMW matched a drug trafficking vehicle, and demanded she surrender $4,000 in cash, her daughter's college tuition payment. I gave them my daughter's tuition money because I was terrified, Morrison said, her voice breaking. I thought they were real police. I thought if I didn't comply, they might shoot me. When I tried to report it the next day, I couldn't provide badge numbers. The officer I spoke to seemed skeptical, like maybe I was confused. I felt like I was the criminal. When Marcus Henderson spoke, he wore his full dress uniform, the dark blue coat with the gold star badge that Whitmore and Brennan had corrupted. Your Honor, I'm fortunate. I had the training and credentials to challenge these defendants, but I've heard from 17 families who didn't. They complied because they were afraid. They believed these criminals were legitimate officers with legitimate authority. Marcus turned to look at Whitmore and Brennan directly. You didn't just steal money and property, you stole trust. You stole the sense of security people should feel when they see emergency lights. You made it harder for every legitimate officer who conducts traffic stops. You put both police and civilians in greater danger with every fake stop. Judge Martinez delivered her sentences without hesitation. James Whitmore, 28 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years supervised release, restitution of $217,000 divided among victims, and prohibition from ever working in law enforcement or security. Kyle Brennan, 22 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years supervised release, joint restitution liability of $217,000, and identical employment prohibitions. Leonard Stokes, 15 years in federal prison for supplying equipment and participating in the conspiracy. The federal government also filed civil forfeiture actions to seize all equipment, the Dodge Charger, and any remaining assets. Outside the courthouse, Marcus Henderson stood with his wife and children, addressing reporters and community members. Justice was served today, but this case should remind all of us about knowing your rights. If someone claiming to be police stops you, you have the right to ask for their name, badge number, and reason for the stop. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to refuse searches without a warrant or probable cause. And if something feels wrong, if the officer can't provide identification, if they're demanding property or cash, if they're making unusual threats, you have the right to request a supervisor or call 911 to verify you're dealing with legitimate law enforcement. The Henderson case prompted immediate reforms. Georgia's legislature passed the Law Enforcement Identification Act of 2024, requiring all officers to provide written documentation of their identity upon request. The law created a statewide database where citizens could verify officer credentials using badge numbers. DeKalb County Police, partnering with the U.S. Marshals Service, launched a community education program teaching citizens how to identify legitimate officers and what to do if they suspect imposters. Today, Marcus Henderson continues his work as a Deputy United States Marshal, now serving as a trainer on constitutional policing and accountability. Shanice returned to her nursing duties. Jaden and Amara went back to school and piano lessons. As for James Whitmore and Kyle Brennan, they're serving their federal sentences in separate facilities. Their careers as predators ended by the one victim who had the knowledge, courage, and authority to expose them. Here's what the law actually says about your rights during traffic stops. Under the Fourth Amendment, you cannot be searched without probable cause or your consent. You have the right to remain silent beyond providing license and registration. You have the right to ask if you're free to leave. And critically, you have the right to request verification of an officer's identity, a right that could save your life or property if you encounter criminals like Whitmore and Brennan. This case reminds us that badges and uniforms are symbols of public trust, trust that must be earned, maintained, and protected. When criminals corrupt those symbols, they harm not just immediate victims, but the relationship between law enforcement and communities. But this case also reminds us that accountability exists, that justice, though sometimes delayed, can prevail, and that knowing your rights isn't just an abstract civics lesson, it's a practical tool that can protect you and your family from those who would abuse the symbols of authority meant to keep us safe. The Henderson family's ordinary Saturday afternoon became an extraordinary moment of justice. 17 families who thought they'd never see justice received validation, restitution, and closure. That's not just a legal victory, that's the American justice system working exactly as it should.